Today I want to talk about the marshals we have in 5.5. I'm finally allowed to say that. Wizards of the Coast sent me an email saying don't call it that, but now I'm allowed to call it that. Anyways, we're comparing the new marshals with the old marshals. Some people believe the marshals we have now are stronger than what we had in the past through experience and play. Their experience is most likely correct because the power floor for marshals was raised. This is a very good thing. I love it a lot. That makes it a lot easier for new players and people who just play normally, That is a system strength for 5.5. However, the power ceiling was lowered, which means what we had in the past was so much stronger in optimization. That is a bad thing for veteran players who want to be strong or optimizers like me. You don't need to look very deep to notice the ceiling's been lowered. All the important martial feats, for example, are gated behind a level 4 prerequisite. This makes them feat starved, especially if you're building a ranged build, for example. Worst of all the power attack feats like Great Weapon Master and Sharpshooter were nerfed. They no longer provide a -5 attack penalty for +10 damage every attack. Now, the really good thing about a lower power ceiling is there won't be that much of a difference between a regular player and an optimizer playing the same class. One is still more powerful than the other, but the optimizer won't be like 3-4 times stronger. But I still think the floor and the ceiling both need to be raised. Marshals are just weaker than any class with a spell list by a lot. Raising just the floor is not going to fix it. You of course need to raise the ceiling as well, not nerf it. I've said this since the playtest. Anyways, I've heard a few people say, Kobold, you're very wrong about the current marshals being weaker compared to the old version. And their claim is that there's a bigger power ceiling late game. To be more specific, it's usually level 13. In a way, they are correct in the DPR department because the marshals finally get their feats they desperately needed in the first place. And their proficiency bonus is high. Great Weapon Master eventually becomes stronger than the old version, but at the beginning when you're low level, the DPR increase is very low. It's still a damage increase, but this is baby numbers. There's more to it, of course, like weapon masteries and proper class features that are stronger now. Every little bit stacks up, it makes sense. But the power ceiling here is not that high compared to the old, and their Nova is still worse by far. Nova is what actually makes marshals good at damage. DPR is secondary. Ranged builds specifically are especially weaker in both departments. Nova to cause death quickly from afar was amazing. That's why you played them. Now you can't do that anymore. You're not good at picking off enemy mages as you were before. Then there's the caster classes. The full casters are absolutely broken at level 9 compared to a level 13 marshal. That was a while ago. So the marshal power ceiling in tier 3 is really a big nothing burger. At level 13, a wizard can cast Simulacrum, which effectively doubles their power. None of the marshals are doubling their power here. And don't even get me started on circle casting. I don't know how anybody can look at that and be like, oh, marshals are useful. Are you out of your mind? They also have less options for magic item crafting, like scrolls. They can't make those. They also have a hard time equipping magic items, and their magic items are weaker than what casters get. I'm telling you right now, you're never gonna find a Ring of Action Surge in the base game. But I can tell you for sure that Ring of Spell Storing exists, and you could put a Wall of Force in it. And guess what? You can arm your Find Familiar with that ring so they can cast and concentrate on Wall of Force. Now I know you're gonna argue, oh, DM Fiat, but magic items show up all the time in tier 3. It is believable for them to get a rare magic item like a Ring of Spell Storing. Players are less likely to find the Ring of Action Search because it's not in the game. It's homebrew that I made up. Kobold, have you given somebody a Ring of Action Surge? No, funnily enough, because everyone I DM for eventually becomes a full caster anyways. The martial progression is not only bad in most areas, it's also boring. Having any spellcasting option opens a sea of options. Now here's the big kick in the balls, and this one really hurts. I warned everyone in the playtest because Jeremy was bragging about it. He was so proud of it. The CR10 monsters in the above are more aggressive and defensive. Some of them are like 2 times more defensive now than what we had in the past. Like, you'll sometimes see them have almost 2 times more HP. And the initiative, especially for everyone, is boosted through the roof. That means we have weaker marshals. That little bit of a boost to the power ceiling for marshals in tier 3 is lowered by the monsters they face. Not only are the main damage dealer classes not dealing enough damage, but they're usually taking more damage than before. They're usually in the front lines in melee. They obviously feel it the most. Welcome to Pack Tactics, where we look at the monsters. This is the entire video. We're just gonna go back to the monster manual. Kobold, look! Kobold and Gator Dice are now in the Only Crit store. Yes, the Kickstarter was extremely successful, so you can now buy them anytime you want. Even the big dice that are the size of your fist. Huge, giant alligator. But that's not the only thing that's in the store. It's full of fun things like cheese dice. If you're gonna cheese the game, you might as well be fun about it, you know? Or you could go with metal dice. They're so freaking metal. In my opinion, the easiest choice of all is the Dragon Eye multiple dice set, because you get 6 dice in 1 bag. But anyways, what are you waiting for? Head on over to onlycrits.com/packtactics and adventure around. If you decide to buy something, use the code GATOR for 15% discount. Back to the video, let's look at some CR10 monsters and above. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about the new monster manual. It's actually my second favorite book Wizards of the Coast have ever made. I love this book. But it does really punish the main damage dealer classes a lot, especially barbarians. Quickly on that with barbarians, a lot of monsters do physical plus elemental damage now on a hit. So the barbarian's rage won't fully cut the damage taken by half, unless you go one specific barbarian subclass, I forget the name of it. That's honestly the biggest downside of this book. Current barbarian has one of the highest DPR in the game, but they take a lot more damage than they did before. So the question really is, did they get boosted? I don't think so if they take more damage. And that the enemies survive for longer, obviously. If they survive for longer, then they have more chances to do things as well. But hey, you know, we also gotta keep in mind that by technicality, absolutely everyone is gonna suffer through this as well. But the barbarian suffers the most. Second is marshals. Third is half-casters. And then fourth is the full casters. If the casters and half-casters are really smart with their control, they usually won't suffer anything. Now let's move on to CR10 monsters. I'm just gonna open the old DMG and look at the first high CR monster I find. Aboleth. Okay, that's actually a really bad example. Because in both versions, no matter what, it's gonna be martial lull. You have disadvantage to melee attacks in the water. They did boost the initiative a lot and give it legendary resistance. The HP is not that bad. They just slapped on an extra 15. But Kobold, aren't casters gonna have a harder time against this than marshals? It has legendary resistance. Not as much as you think, Gator. Legendary resistance isn't that scary. You just do damage instead, for example, and some spells do half damage. For more information about how to fight legendary resistance, check out this video. And keep in mind, CR10 is usually where casters have their wall of force and stuff. They're probably microwaving with their friends. This Aboleth can't escape the microwave. They're gonna die. For more information about the microwave combo, check out the wall of force video. Anyways, next, Arcanoloth. Here's the old version. I've fought against these guys several times before. These guys are demon furries. A lot of them watch this channel. They love Pack Tactics. Anyways, boom. They went from 17 AC to 18 AC, and 104 HP to 175 HP, and they have +5 initiative. These guys can fly too, by the way. That hasn't changed, but I thought I would point that out. Also, if you're in melee with these guys now, chances are high you're going to be hit with that Banishing Claw. There's a save, of course, but DC 17 Charisma save is really hard for most marshals, so they're most likely going to get banished. By the way, usually everything that's a spellcaster now is really, really, really scary. All of them got a huge HP boost like this. And marshals were actually really good at killing them with Nova before. There's tons of DMs out there who have said, I ran this caster boss and they got one shot by the crossbow expert sharpshooter battlemaster fighter. You're never gonna hear that anymore. This is exactly what I was talking about. I didn't need to go that far. Anyways, next, Balors. These guys are Balrogs. Their improvement is not that bad, besides getting a plus 14 to initiative. Behir is almost the same, but they still got a boost. You know what? This is 1 point to 5.5 marshals. They're actually better here. Next, Beholders. They're scary for everyone though, but especially casters, fair game. Still, plus 12 initiative, and guess who's usually in the front? They also got an extra 10 HP and legendary resistance now. Next, Adult Black Dragons. They have spells that work at range now, and plus 12 initiative. They also have At Will Fear, which I've abused to high hell the 2 times I ran this dragon. Casters have a lot easier chance of handling this dragon. If you fight this thing at an open field, it can technically default kill you if that fear lands. Anyways, I think you guys get the point. Out of everything, I like to point at the Archmage the most. These guys pop up all the time in tier 3. They're like the wolves or goblins for me for some reason. As you can see, they went from 99 HP to 170 HP, and they have plus 7 initiative. They have way better AC, which is 17. They also have the shield spell now, which ramps them up to 22. Again, marshals used to be really good at taking these guys out fast with Nova, and now they can't do it anymore. So whatever DPR boost marshals got in 5.5 has been indirectly nerfed by the monsters they're fighting. The only people who benefited here are the regular player base because the power floor was raised. But even the power floor isn't high enough in my opinion. This is why I rarely make videos on official marshals anymore, besides playtest. The power ceiling is too low. We're only really scratching the surface here. Last time I talked about the monster manual, I also talked about Summon Greater Demon getting boosted. Link in the description for that. But one thing I forgot to talk about was True Polymorph. When the full caster gets True Polymorph, they can turn their friends into adult silver dragons. Look what they can do. 60-foot cone, incapacitate, DC 20 con save. On the second fail, they get the paralyzed condition. The melee attacks that hit become crits. When the casters have this, what's even the point of playing a marshal? It's just better to turn into an adult silver dragon at that point. That way you get the breath and you have the legendary actions as well, and legendary resistance. And you can fly. I can tell you for sure, 80-foot fly speed is way better than any monk running around. And having 3 legendary actions and that breath is way better than a fighter with 4 attacks and action surge. And this and that and ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I don't like saying bad things about marshals and pointing out their flaws. I think it's a really cool concept that you can kick everyone's asses with just a stick, for example. But the power just isn't there. They got nerfed in so many different places. And then when finally it looks like, oh, they got boosted here where they're actually stronger here, you start to realize, oh, the monsters I'm fighting are actually stronger than they were before. Well, snap. Marshals have been nerfed in every single tier of play. In optimization, that is. Keep in mind, the floor was raised. So if you're playing normally, you're the winner. The optimizers, well, every single one of them are playing casters. I just DM for casters. I am not joking. Those 4 martial classes are like unicorns to me now. I want to DM for a martial, and I want him to be really good. I want him to kick my ass. Come on! End the video. Check out the Kobold and Gator dice. They're on only crits now. Or you could buy some other types of dice like metal dice or cheese dice. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bye-bye!